What would you think if I told you that setting a goal to declutter your house is useless? Let me tell you about something that I have found to be way more effective. Well, hey, if we haven't met before, my name is Betsy. I have a wonderful husband and 3 small kids, and useless is probably too strong of a word, but I do think there's something better than a goal when it comes to decluttering your house.
How could that possibly be?
Goals are great, but systems are even better. I have been reading the book Atomic Habits by James Clear, and early on in the book, he said something that really resonated with me on the decluttering front. And I'm slightly paraphrasing here, but he says, results have little to do with the goals we set and almost everything to do with the systems we follow. This really hit home for me. I mean, sure, I always have the goal of a tidy and decluttered home, but what am I actually doing in my day-to-day reality that is moving me towards that goal?
Great question.
I mean, goals are great because they really help us declare where we want to end up, but systems are really kind of the everyday in the trenches, boots on the ground that can make our goals a reality. And so reading this in this book really got me thinking, what system or systems am I using to deal with clutter? And if it's something that you're struggling with as well, that clutter builds up in your house and you're just always feeling like, why can't I get on top of this? Why can't I get control of the clutter in my home?
What's wrong with me?
I would suggest to you that the problem is not that you have a bad goal. If you're watching this video, probably you have the same goal as I do, to have a clean, tidy, decluttered home. So the goal is not the problem. The problem is the systems, or for me, sometimes the lack of systems that are in place to deal with clutter on a regular basis.
Let's be honest, boys.
So in today's video, I wanted to talk about a few different decluttering systems that can be super useful. I have used all of these at one time or another. I've used a combination of these, and they have all been helpful for me at different times. And as I am getting back into the swing of things after having a baby, there is definitely some decluttering that needs to be done around our house. Stay tuned for future videos on that. And so this video is as much for me today as anyone else, but I hope maybe that as I go through these, some of these might resonate with you and maybe be helpful as you're looking to implement a system that might work for keeping your home decluttered. So I kind of divided these into 2 different categories. There's time-oriented systems and then there's item-oriented systems. And I'll start with time-oriented systems. First on the list is the crisis management system. And this is a name that I came up with. I haven't read it in any book. You probably get what this one is. Crisis management is when the clutter has gotten to a crisis level. You're going through and doing marathon decluttering, maybe spending several hours or even several days digging out of the clutter in your house. Now, I have been there. I am going to be there again shortly. As I mentioned, I just had a baby and things just have piled up with the end of my pregnancy and then with having a newborn, and that's just kind of the way of life sometimes.
Why does this always happen to me?
So I share this system not thinking that this is the recommended system and the way to go. I don't really feel that it is, but life is life. It's real and things happen, and in seasons like this, sometimes stuff piles up and you need to do crisis management. Second one is a daily declutter. I have talked about this several times in past videos when I've done videos on the Clean Mama cleaning routine. In that cleaning routine, she suggests doing a daily declutter, usually like at the end of the day when you're resetting the house. If there's clutter that's out or stuff that you need to get rid of, just taking care of it, putting it in a donation box right there and then throwing it in the trash. I have done that in the past. I think it's very effective. It's very useful. And if you are feeling like you're in a place where you are on top of your clutter and you're kind of in maintenance mode, that daily declutter can be really great. Another time-oriented system would be a quarterly review or a quarterly declutter. I call it review because usually things I think of that I'm going through once a quarter are things like clothing, like my kids' clothes usually because they're growing so fast. For my husband and I, it would be more seasonal, like twice a year. But it's that idea of you're switching out clothes in the closet and you're reviewing what you have and you're decluttering things that you no longer wear, don't fit, etc., etc. Another example would be seasonal items. Every time the Christmas stuff comes out, every time the Easter stuff comes out, there's natural kind of seasonal breaks where you're pulling stuff out, putting stuff away. And usually it's related around home decor, but that's a great time to declutter. And so I would call that kind of a quarterly review or a quarterly declutter. And lastly, the time-oriented system that is so effective, I've used so many times and you perhaps have as well, and that is using a timer. Setting a timer for a particular particular amount of time and just going for it. And whether you're setting that timer for 45 minutes or for 10 minutes, doesn't matter. It's a concentrated amount of time where you are doing nothing but decluttering. You don't have to feel like you have to sweep through your whole house during that time. You can just set the timer and you can declutter a drawer, you can declutter a dresser, whatever you feel like is manageable for that amount of time. I strongly suggest it, especially if you're feeling a little bit on the overwhelmed side with decluttering. A timer helps so that you know there's an end to it and it's not just this endless declutter session.
What a nightmare.
Second category of systems I would say are item-oriented systems. So this kind of revolves around the clutter itself. So one in, one out. This is one that I think everyone is familiar with. If you're bringing one thing into your house, take one thing out of your house. This one is good in principle. It is hard in practice, in my opinion, because sometimes it's really easy. Like say you buy a new blouse or something. Okay, you one blouse in and then you're taking one blouse out of your closet. That's easy. But there's a lot of things that we bring into our house that there's not a perfect like swap for. And I don't always find that that's the best way, at least in our home, for me to stay on top of clutter. Another item-oriented system, and this is from Dana K. White, A Slob Comes Clean. She has an excellent blog and an excellent YouTube channel. This is the container method. You use a container to be the boundary for how much stuff you decide to keep. If that container is overflowing, then you know that you need to declutter down to where that container is no longer overflowing. You've got storage baskets in your linen closet. Dresser drawers could be containers. Use anything as a container, a toy box for your kids, where you say, okay, until this toy box can close easily, we're going to keep decluttering and getting rid of things. As long as the toy box is overflowing, that's not going to be workable. And so with this item-oriented decluttering system, I think it's very effective because it's very visual. You can tell that decluttering needs to happen.
Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy.
That's the signal for you to declutter, and then you kind of have an idea of how much you need to get rid of for that container to comfortably fit your items again. Lastly, for item-oriented decluttering, this is one I use on a regular basis, the donation box rotation. And that is, you just have a donation box that has a place in your home, whether that's in your entry closet or it's in the back of your vehicle or it's on top of your dryer. Usually mine sits on top of the dryer. And in that box, you're just constantly, when you find things that need to go to the donation center, you're putting them in there. And then when the box is full, next time you go out, it goes in the back of your vehicle, you drop it off there and you replace it with a new box. You just have a space where you and hopefully everyone in the family knows that if there's something that needs to be decluttered, it goes in that box, then it goes in the vehicle, then it goes to the donation center. It just kind of keeps propelling things out the door.
Get it out of here!
The hope is that you would kind of keep this rotation going through. That is one of the most effective item-oriented systems that I have found for decluttering. Any of these systems or a combination of two or more can be very effective in helping to declutter. I know they have been very effective for me. And like I said, as I'm kind of getting back into the swing of things, that I'm going to start implementing some systems again. I will admit that first I do need to do a crisis management declutter. That's going to be the first system I use to get back on top of things. But then after that, implementing some of these smaller systems that will help to stay in maintenance mode and stay on top of the clutter. I would love to hear in the comments the decluttering systems that you have used, if there are some that you found to be really effective, some that have not worked well, or ones that you're planning to use in the future. I would love to hear about it, and I know that would be helpful for others as well. If you are interested in more decluttering tips, I will put a playlist here that has several decluttering videos that I have done. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.